The Kennedy family is one of America's most powerful families, known for their influence in business and politics, but that's not all. Besides producing 3 U.S. senators, 2 ambassadors, and 1 president, the Kennedys are also known for their massive net worth, and successive generations have inherited this wealth, so it's safe to say the Kennedy wealth is an example of old money. Today, the Kennedys have a collective net worth of roughly $1.2 billion, but it all came from one man who managed to convert his new money into sustainable wealth. In this video, we'll discuss how the Kennedys went from having new money to old money. Who was the first wealthy Kennedy? You're probably wondering where they got all this money from, and while there's no straight answer, the family's wealth can be traced back to Joseph P. Kennedy. This man, the patriarch of the Kennedy dynasty, built the Kennedy name and wealth out of almost nothing. Thanks to his smartness and ambition, he was able to generate new money, which formed the foundation of the Kennedy wealth we've all heard about. All this talk about old money and new money might seem confusing if you don't know the meaning, so let's briefly explain these terms. Simply put, new money is wealth that is self-made, not inherited. When someone can manage new money correctly, it becomes old money, and wealth is passed down to younger generations. In other words, people with old money are trust fund babies who have known wealth all their life, usually because their parents, grandparents, or even great-grandparents worked their hats off in their day. Joseph P. Kennedy was born into a family of Irish Catholic immigrants who settled in Boston. At the time, there weren't a lot of opportunities for immigrants, but the young Kennedy was determined to excel against all odds. Joseph was the eldest child of his parents, and his father, Patrick Joseph Kennedy, was a well-known businessman and politician in Boston. After graduating high school, Joseph went to Harvard University, where he obtained his bachelor's degree in economics, a degree which was arguably the key to his wealth. After graduating from Harvard, Joseph pursued a business career and began as a small-scale investor. As time passed, he set his sights on more significant investments, which generated massive profits. Joseph invested in everything from active commodities to stock and banking, and the more he invested, the richer he got. However, he wasn't just an investor, he also ran several other businesses. For example, he owned a studio in Hollywood, invested heavily in real estate, and finally went into liquor importation. In fact, he was one of the biggest alcohol importers in the 1930s after the Prohibition era ended. By 1935, Joseph had a net worth of $180 million, equivalent to roughly $4 billion today, making him the richest Kennedy ever and one of the wealthiest people in the world at the time. After becoming wealthy, the Kennedy patriarch shifted his attention to politics. He started as an avid donator of the Democratic Party, and in time he became one of the party's biggest donors. Remember that Joseph's father was a well-known politician in Boston, so he already had some political connections. However, his generous donations created stronger and more important ties for him. For example, he became acquainted with then-President Roosevelt, who offered him a couple of appointments, and John F. Fitzgerald, a former mayor of Boston, whose daughter he married. Given his connection and invaluable role in the Democratic Party, Joseph Kennedy held several important political positions, including chairman of the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission and chairman of the U.S. Maritime Commission. At the peak of his political career, he became the U.S. ambassador to the United Kingdom. Joseph and his wife, Rose Fitzgerald Kennedy, had 9 children, and about 4 of them grew up to become famous political figures, including former President John F. Kennedy. What did Joseph Kennedy's children do to preserve their family's relevance and wealth? Joseph Kennedy's children became popular in politics around the late 40s and early 50s. Building on their father's money, power, and influence, the younger Kennedys did more than surpass their father's legacy, and even made a name for themselves. John F. Kennedy was the first child to be launched into politics, and although he went as far as becoming one of America's favorite presidents, that wasn't his father's plan. The patriarch of the Kennedy family wanted his first son, Joseph Kennedy Jr., to become a U.S. president. Unfortunately, Joseph Jr. dies before fulfilling his father's political expectations. He was killed in a top-secret mission in World War II, and his father's ambitions were passed to his younger brother John. However, John wasn't just launched into a high seat in politics. Before becoming the 35th president of the U.S., John F. Kennedy worked as a journalist, served in World War II, and was even tagged a war hero, represented Boston in the U.S. House of Representatives, and served as a U.S. senator. After a long line of old politicians, Seeing a young man like John run for president was like a breath of fresh air to the American public. His political campaign gained immense popularity, and although very narrowly, John F. Kennedy won the election and became the youngest president in U.S. history. His other two brothers also had political ambitions, and the fact that John was president was a huge advantage. One of the things President Kennedy did for his family as president was he appointed his brother Robert as Attorney General. The U.S. Congress was not amused by the president's public display of nepotism, but he didn't care. As he put it, the president appointed his brother so he could get some legal experience before getting a job. It sounded like a colossal joke that nobody was impressed by. However, Robert proved everyone wrong and was an excellent Attorney General. After leaving the Attorney General office, Robert ran for president as the Democratic Party's candidate. However, he was assassinated just 5 years after JFK's assassination. The youngest male, Kennedy, Edward, was the only one left with a political career, and until he died in 2009, he only served in the U.S. Senate. However, only some of the second-generation Kennedys had political careers. Some assisted with their father's businesses, while some married into wealthy families, which brought the Kennedys' acceptance into certain old money circles. For example, Kathleen Kennedy married William John Robert Cavendish, the son and heir of a wealthy British duke. With their reputation, multiple family businesses, and strategic marriages, the Kennedys kept getting famous and rich, securing old money for the younger Kennedys. Sustaining new money is almost as hard as securing it, and all it takes is one unhinged generation for family wealth to lose its value. However, the Kennedy family has sustained its patriarch's wealth, converting Joseph Kennedy's new money into old money. The second generation of Kennedys did a great job at maintaining the family's wealth. However, this wealth has depreciated inevitably over the years due to inflation, management issues, and whatnot. However, the Kennedy family still has a net worth exceeding $1.2 billion as of 2022. That's still pretty wealthy if you ask me. The Kennedy family had it all, or so it looked, at least most of the time. However, as the years passed, time uncovered some of the family's ugly side, and they suddenly didn't seem so perfect anymore. Do the Kennedys have any big secrets that they keep hidden? Well, let's just say every family has big secrets, which must be protected at all costs, and the Kennedys are no different. During their outstanding services in American politics, the Kennedys kept a couple of secrets from the public to protect their reputation, and one of these secrets was a mentally unstable relative. At the peak of Joseph Kennedy's political career, his daughter, Rosemary Kennedy, experienced mood swings and violent tendencies, and doctors suggested a form of psychosurgery to calm her symptoms, and her father desperately agreed to it. Unfortunately, the surgery was unsuccessful and left Rosemary permanently disabled, both physically and intellectually. Joseph Kennedy relocated Rosemary to a rehabilitation institution in Wisconsin to protect his political career and his children. She was kept a secret for over 20 years, and it wasn't until Joseph's final moments that the truth got out. Despite this revelation, the Kennedys in power avoided and didn't adequately support the topic of mental health, an issue they've had to face as a family. It was almost like they were in denial, and this did not sit right with many Americans. At least the Rosemary incident was kept secret, but Joseph had a couple of bad habits that he took no extra measures to keep secret. One of his many vices was his numerous extramarital relationships. He cheated on his wife, Rose, very publicly and on several occasions. After being informed by her strict Catholic father that divorce wasn't an option, Rose Fitzgerald Kennedy was forced to play the role of the obedient political wife and turn a blind eye to her husband's behaviors. Of his numerous extramarital relationships, some of the most popular ones were with famous actresses Gloria Swanson and Marlene Dietrich. His relationship with Gloria Swanson was popularly called an open secret in Hollywood. He also had an affair with his secretary, Janet Desrosiers-Fontaine, among many others. This reputation had no permanent consequence on Joseph's political career, partly because he had powerful connections and partly because he was a decent politician. However, while people generally tend to keep their vices as private as possible, Joseph Kennedy couldn't care less. Another ugly Kennedy moment was when news of JFK's multiple extramarital relationships became public. Like his father, John was a serial cheat and made no particular effort to keep his infidelity a secret. Then President Kennedy popularly cheated on First Lady Jacqueline with famous celebrities, and some female members of the White House staff. Some of these included the famous Hollywood actresses Marilyn Monroe, White House intern Mimi Oldford, German actress Marlene Dietrich, the First Lady's press secretary Pamela Turnure, White House staff member Priscilla Ware, and many other women. JFK popularly told anyone who cared to listen to his sexual needs and how he would get a headache if they weren't met daily. His special assistant, Dave Powers, helped him line up women from all over the country who were willing, and they would meet up with the president at specific locations. Although this was a bad look for the first family in the United States, JFK's infidelity didn't exactly get in the way of him doing his job correctly. So even though many Americans frowned at such behavior, it wasn't reason enough to impeach the president. Well, most of the people involved in this ugly family history have been dead for a long time, and even though these events are impossible to forget, the Kennedys still have a legacy outside of the atrocities committed by the family. The Kennedys have had an unforgettable impact on American politics and society. From this one family, ambassadors, attorney generals, senators, successful business people, and an iconic president have arisen, so they're bound to be unforgettable. Even though all the Kennedys have individual legacies, some have had more substantial impacts than others. Joseph Kennedy's greatest impact was on economics and raising his sons to be powerful politicians. Still, his son John F. Kennedy had the most substantial impact on America for obvious reasons. At 43, JFK made history by becoming the youngest American president and one of the most loved presidents. Besides their heavy contribution to politics and society, the rest of the Kennedys were mostly known for being members of a family worth billions of dollars. I'm sure you're wondering what's left of the Kennedys now. Well, the family is way less prominent than it was in the 1900s, and now it is a bit more diverse. However, some of its members are still in the political spotlight. Joe Kennedy III, JFK's grandnephew, is the most prominent Kennedy in modern politics, while the rest of the young Kennedys are authors, actors, socialites, or journalists. Although not as much as they were in their glory days, the Kennedys are still billionaires and have deep connections, thanks to the patriarch and second generation of Kennedys. However, one can't help but wonder if the younger Kennedys are doing a great job sustaining the family's wealth. I guess time will tell. Thank you for watching this video. Be sure to hit like and subscribe to the channel for more videos like this. Till next time.